This review is really fucking late. I know that, but I've just been enjoying this bad boy for like the past 2 weeks, and I think it's probably about time that I talk about it. So, Daughters are a noise rock, mathcore group from Rhode Island. This is their 4th studio album, and they seem to have fallen under a lot of people's radars since their earlier releases in the 2010s, including mine, although I guess that's to be expected when you leave for 8 years and your back catalog doesn't really have that much meat to it yet. Their first album was pretty much just straight grindcore slash mathcore, so you could expect very brief bursts of destructive energy, although it was clear the group was still trying to figure out what the fuck they were doing. The first time they seemed to really be coming into their own was in their 2010 self-titled album, which is an assertive, ever-shifting monster whose appeal to me mostly comes from the tight amount of riffs that it packs into every song and the noisy solos. I think it was more accessible since the rhythms were pretty easy to wrap your head around, although the instrumentation was still carried with plenty of weight and felt like it was going to explode at any and every second, and it worked in some historical and religious references to the group's typical abstract but always brutal and graphic style of songwriting. Not only that, but it almost always feels personal and rooted in emotional torment. So this album, You Won't Get What You Want, is still clearly working in the group's realm of interest while also venturing out into some new territory, as there's some clear no-wave influence here. You'll find some frantic guitar tones like the ones from Glenn Branca's The Ascension, some angular rhythms like the ones from Filth-era Swans, add in the occasional atmospheric gloom of a Joy Division song and the tortured energy of early Nine Inch Nails. Basically, this is just a demented art punk album that will simultaneously melt your brain into a mush and shake you back and forth until you enter the same psychotic mental state that the lead singer seems to be in. Some tracks' instrumentation are ear-splitting chaos that push the already hysterical highs they've set up to their breaking points, while there are also some more slithering, ominous moments like the sample in the verses of Less Sex, or the subterranean guitar groove at the forefront of Daughter, each note enveloped by a thunderous rumble, a ghost-like howl, some noisier moments that churn alongside a sick drum groove, and then all the elements come together into this claustrophobic mania as one last weary vocal performance and looped synth pokes its head through. City Song, I think, is similarly compositionally perfect. It starts off with this distorted crackle, drums that steadily flare until breaking into what feels like shotguns drilling into your skull next to this high-pitched squealing. It closes with the impact of brisk, glitchy synths and a blaring metallic outro, and the track groans about a city where everyone's lives are collectively being worn down by monotony and boredom. And on Ocean Song, it pushes him to the brink of running away from it and isolating himself from it entirely in this panicked frenzy. And the freedom suggested is vivid, it's euphoric when compared to this constant sickness he's stuck in. I think it's one of the best written songs on here, along with Long Road No Turns, which illustrates this agony and darkness that the lead singer feels the world will always be clouded by, and how he doesn't know how to respond to other people falling apart, because he knows that they're just doomed to it to some extent, although it kind of pleases him to know that other people have it too, and that we should all just embrace it and get in line and go through the motions. And this track, Guest House, The Flammable Man are all just peak abrasive and stop at nothing to attack you. Especially Flammable Man, whose instrumentation just feels like you're in a fucking war zone. But my favorite of these songs has to be the Lord song, whose hammering drums and apocalyptic drone are just overwhelmed by these screeching guitars that fall totally off the deep end by the end, and whose lyrics just reinforce the fact that the only power or feeling he feels like he has left is within his pain, especially in the chorus. But unfortunately, although I do really like all of these songs, the fact that so many of them are shooting for roughly the same thing does bother me just the tiniest bit, and I think cutting maybe one of them would have made this a flawless album experience. I would lean towards the reason they hate me for that, and although I like Satan in the Wait, I do think it's the weakest track here, just based on its predictable structure, the fact it gets a little bit tiresome by the end and could have ended earlier, and the crescendo does feel a little bit weaker than on a lot of the other tracks, although I especially love the chorus of this song. But for real, this is really fucking good, and you didn't need me to tell you that, so I'm feeling like an 8.5. Thanks so much for watching this review. I'll see you soon.